I strongly and honestly believe that skateboarding, when supported and motivated properly, can be a hugely beneficial, positive asset for a city. To have a space that not only we have a level of ownership over, but we've created a space out of nothing, out of a building site, a space that felt very dangerous, very unloved, to make it into this community asset really demonstrates how, when municipalities work positively with skateboarding and with young people more generally, not just skateboarders, we can really unlock these assets for positive development and reimagining cities. People of my vintage have been going to Scandinavian cities for 10, 15 years now and observing like the good architecture, the good design and the democracy of architecture and design. So to go to pull something off a bit like that in Great Britain in the middle of a cost of living crisis when the City Council had a really hard time financially feels like an achievement I wasn't sure we'd be able to achieve, so I'm really pretty happy right now. So the space just down here used to be where the Broadmarsh banks were, which was an internationally famous skate spot that were a series of brick banks that featured on the covers of international skateboarding magazines, in videos all over the place. And people literally used to come from all over the world to skate these incidental brick bumps.
It was quite a central point to skating in the Midlands. Broadmarsh banks seemed like a paradise. It looked like the spots in the videos that we'd seen, and it was somewhere we always kept going back to. And it was also there for what seemed like a long time compared to other spots. Because it was tucked out of the way and nobody else went there, we were kind of left to our own devices there.
Skateboarders would congregate and meet up in Old Market Square and then skate through town, through what used to be the old Broadmarsh shopping centre, down the downhill slope into the old Broadmarsh bus station, which had an orange marble floor, which was unusually smooth for British surfaces back then. It was the kind of, I mean, it's a weird thing to say, but we're talking like, you know, like recession, post-Thatcher kind of cities really. They didn't have smooth surfaces, so the bus station was a very important place. It was always dry. You could skate it with minimum hassle, and then when you'd finished doing that, if it was dry, you skated through a tunnel and you came out into this, which was the Broadmarsh bank spot, which was, I would say, probably, aside from South Bank, probably the most famous bank skateboard spot in the country, really.
For some reason, the old town planners built some beautiful banks. Some kind of architectural anomaly, I guess. Pool skating was just in its heyday in the USA. There was nowhere like that to skate in this country. We didn't have any empty swimming pools that had nice curved surfaces. But what we did have was Broadmarsh. It was skateable. People adapted to it. It was made out of engineering bricks, but it was still smooth enough to skate. And it had nice transitions, and it had some mellow banks, then it had some steeper banks. It had banks that you could do a 180 air over. It had the big flat bank down at the far end. That went all the way up. That was must have been about 15 metres long.
They deteriorated gradually over time to the point where towards the end they were really difficult to skate, but early on they were beautiful. And we used to ride bigger wheels then, so you could kind of almost skate any obstacle and it was okay.
As Broadmarsh banks the spot of what it was to me originally, I have no idea what it was before that. It's before my time. But for the most part, for me, I was starting to skate it during its demise, let's say. It became very much, again, a dumping ground for rubbish, a lot of homeless, even like drug users and things around there. But because of what I knew it was prior, I couldn't let that go by without skating it.
So when the demolition of the banks began, to people of my generation and people who've grown up and understood the significance of this space, it seemed like a really sort of egregious act of cultural vandalism, really, because it got knocked down, but then the space didn't get used. There was one big flat bank that was left. I mean, weirdly enough, I've got one of the bricks at home from when it was destroyed, but myself and a bunch of my contemporaries came and took bricks home because we wanted to keep a piece of it, you know, and That's how important it was to my generation.
And then for the longest part, this whole area was either a wasteland, just fenced off, or storage for some other construction for maybe the college or things that have happened in Broadmarsh Centre, the new bus station and things as well. And that's literally been it for the longest part. Like, it's just been dead space.
There are more things that we'd like to do. We're trying to work with the council on augmenting parts of the city by maybe adapting some darker parts. So for example, by the Contemporary, maybe we could put like a ledge there, and it's a very simple, basic thing to skate, but it would liven up that area and make it much safer for everyone who's walking through, because instead of it being a dark, quiet, scary place, there'll be people there moving around. Sometimes skateboarding can actually like help an area feel nicer, safer, more lively.
You know, we're activating a public space. We're keeping it lively. We're ensuring it's inclusive. We're ensuring that women and girls can be active in public space. We're ensuring that young people can have access to public space. But we're bringing back spaces where planning has failed, and we're making it work again through the power that skateboarding is.
Everything's an opportunity for fun if you're a skateboarder.
There's no kind of bound limit by where you can go with it, who you'll meet.
We look at a set of stairs and we look at see if there's bumps before it. You know, we look at a handrail, we look if there's any knobs on it. You know, normal people don't do that. That's part of being a skateboarder. I love it.
I think through the 90s to sort of early 2000s, a lot of parks were built and spots that were sort of actually designed for skateboarders weren't built by anyone that understood the actual physics of it all, how space works in between it, the actual dimensions, distances between objects and stuff like that. So now getting people that are actually involved in skating, number one, they know what they like to skate. And then it also kind of furthers skateboarding in a challenging way as how can you change something that's kind of had a staple for the last 30, 40 years? And how can you move that forwards into a new direction with it? So it's not just repeated again every decade.
We've had a formal permitted jam today, and the idea behind it is that we demonstrate that we can utilise the space responsibly and make it lively and interesting and engaging. Today the skateboarders have totally cleaned the space from top to bottom. We've filled it full of ramps, we've filled it full of life, and we've had an amazing afternoon.
It's kind of just a way to publicise almost some of the best things about skating in a short space of time. Exhibitions, talks, workshops, film nights, competitions, the indoor skate park, the outdoor spaces. Getting it all together in this 1 week has been absolutely great.
No other place in the UK has really done this before, so it's really good that we've been able to now show Nottingham City Council this, and they've kind of gone, okay, well, you know, maybe we can make it more of like a community-friendly thing, so really glad that this has all helped to be a part of that as well.
We've had this window of progress with decision makers in the city in a way that we've never had before in skateboarding in Nottingham. We've never had productive discussions with people involved in master planning for the city. We've never had significant funding for skating before. We've never been involved as skateboarders in the design of skate parks. We're riding a bit of a wave that we've never had experience of riding before, and we ain't surfers. But it still feels like it's not been formalised. It doesn't feel in the bag yet, and that's a big area of risk, that it could all finish tomorrow. That there could be a reintroduction of anti-skate legislation, or a series of redevelopments that push what we're doing out of the city again, but we're told that we should only use public skate parks, all of that sort of stuff, that sends us back 20 years. So it feels that we need to kind of consistently, without a break, keep winning, keep getting these little incremental wins. And if there's ever a loss of momentum, we go backwards 10 years. And that's the area of constant anxiety at the moment.
Skateboarding is still fundamentally rooted within architecture and within the space and within which we're in the city.
Several generations of street culture, skateboarding culture that are depending on us to make this space work. Really amazing to have hit our crowdfunder target of £15,000. This means that Tram Line Spot is go, 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 go.
Today we're adding a high strength resin to the gaps here, to the point where it's going to be skated, so that the edges don't get blown out as soon as the trucks hit them. And we do that before we seal it. Makes it nice and strong, keeps it fresh.
Space is very creative and big, and I love how when it rains or something happens that you can still
The trams
skate
get
here.
wet.
So I walked through the bus station and it felt so familiar, and then I almost expected to walk out into the banks because I haven't come down here for so long because it's just been all a building site. So then when you walk out, you kind of go, this has still got the spirit of the banks in the 90s, but fresh.
So this space in Nottingham is incredible. To have a key area where Lil can come down and skate in the heart of the city is brilliant.
So it's really nice to see a new facility on what is a historical, the original Broadmarsh skate area, which was never designated as a skate area. Obviously now it's designed for skateboarding, so people can skate here safely and with encouragement.
I'm glad how it turned out. It's just a nice open space, not too cramped, so it's a bit for everyone.
Previously what you had was the Broadmarsh banks at this place, and now, 14 years after they were demolished, you've got a space that is now completely given over to skateboarding. Yeah, I guess it shows values changing, attitudes changing in the last 14 years, dramatically.
We're smack bang in the centre, the train station's there, the college is there, it's amazing. I was sick to death of the youth of always being shunned away, nobody wanted to see my skateboarding or anything, I might have learned something great that day.
I mean, there's still technically a bylaw in Nottingham where you can get a £500 fine up to skating around town, but now you're kind of encouraged to skate around town. So this kind of shows that, I guess, people and their attitudes are way ahead of the kind of authorities and things like that.
I mean, what Skate Nottingham have done is absolutely incredible. I mean, it's easy for a younger generation of skateboarders and BMXers to not really understand how important something like this is, because they've grown up in an era where there's skate parks everywhere and provision for skateboarding is embedded into cities. But the fact that they built that on its own is crazy, but the fact that it's been built here, which was the home of, was probably the top 3 most important spots in British skateboard culture for a 25-30 year period. I mean, that really is paying homage to, to a culture which has now been accepted finally.
It's a tough few days and weeks beforehand, but seeing it open now is awesome. A bit emotional. Thought I might have had a little cry when I first got here and it was looking all open a bit. The stress and anxiety has definitely kicked in, and that hasn't happened yet. I might have a little cry later.